Nobody cares. Remember that. What if that line wasn't just dialogue, but a warning? The Dogs of War wasn't just a gritty mercenary thriller. It was a volatile experiment in realism, built on danger, improvisation, and a production that sometimes spun out of control. Today, we're opening the locked case file. These are 20 weird facts about the Dogs of War, the secrets the studio never highlighted, and the stories even fans rarely hear. Let's get into it. Hit that like button and dive in. Fact number 1. The film nearly lost its jungle location. Production begins in Belize, but within days, the crew realizes the terrain isn't just dense, it's punishing. Imagine moving heavy Panavision gear through mud that swallows boots, with humidity fogging lenses every few minutes. It wasn't a set. It was a trial, not movie jungle, but actual wilderness where schedules collapse overnight. Local storms erupt during dailies, wiping out paths built the day before. The crew scrambles to protect equipment under makeshift tarps, while producers debate abandoning the location altogether. What audiences didn't know is that the film almost shut down before the first major action sequence was shot. In the end, the chaos becomes part of the movie's raw texture, a disaster avoided by inches. Fact number 2. Christopher Walken trains with real mercenaries. Most actors would rely on choreography or military advisors. Not Walken. He insists on learning from people who live the kind of missions the film depicts. He spends days in drills handling gear, moving in tight formations, rehearsing night operations. The advisors don't care he's a star. They push him until he blends in. It wasn't acting, one consultant says. He wanted the real rhythm, not imitation, but immersion. The result, Walken's screen presence feels unsettlingly authentic. His stillness carries weight. His bursts of movement come with trained precision. What audiences don't see is the grueling preparation behind that cold stare. Fact number 3. The opening ambush was shot under real hazard conditions. The nighttime ambush sequence looks chaotic because it is. The location is pitch black, uneven, and scattered with routes that trip cast and crew in the middle of combat takes. The practical explosions are timed down to milliseconds, and one misstep could put an actor in the wrong place during a fireball burst. A stunt coordinator later admits, "It was one of the most unpredictable setups we ever tried. Not staged chaos, but controlled risk. Every blast echoes through the jungle, rolling across the darkness." Walken insists on doing several runs himself, despite producers pleading for stand-ins. That commitment turns a dangerous shoot into one of the film's most unforgettable sequences. Fact number 4. A prop malfunction delayed filming for days. During a key sequence, a replica launcher jams repeatedly. The problem isn't cosmetic, it's structural. Each jam forces the weapon team to halt the scene, strip the prop down, and rebuild it on the spot. Production loses nearly 3 full days. In an industry governed by call sheets and tight windows, that delay is brutal. The director tries to pivot to other material, but the terrain and lighting setups make it impossible. So the crew waits, and waits. Not a schedule slip, but a chain reaction. Those delays ripple through the shoot and raise the budget. Yet the stubborn malfunction becomes a small part of the film's legend, an unplanned obstacle the crew had to outmaneuver. Fact number 5. The fictional nation of Zangaro was almost based on a real country. Though officially fictional, Zangaro draws heavily from political realities in Central and West Africa. Early drafts reference specific leaders and uprisings, making the parallels uncomfortably direct. Producers intervene. They push for subtlety, not because accuracy is an issue, but because governments don't appreciate being portrayed through coups. Not a fictional backdrop, but a veiled commentary. The red flags are enough for the production to revise names, geography, and cultural markers. However, insiders note some scenes still mirror real coups from the era a little too closely. The movie walks a line tight, sharp, and intentional. Fact number 6. The film's helicopter work was shockingly real. When helicopters swoop across the treetops, they're not models or matte shots. They're real aircraft flying dangerously close to dense jungle canopy. The pilots execute tight combat-style maneuvers that would normally be forbidden on film sets. Wind blasts hit the cast with raw force, as rotor wash kicks debris everywhere. Some crew members later confess they feared one wrong tilt could bring a helicopter down. Not movie flying, combat flying. The realism gives the film a pulse that audiences can feel. Every rotor beat in those scenes comes from a production team willing to push boundaries for authenticity. Fact number 7. Christopher Walken's transformation almost didn't happen. Christopher Walken's gaunt, haunted look in the Dogs of War is one of the film's most memorable elements. Yet, it almost never happened. Early camera tests show him looking far healthier, fuller cheeks, a clean-cut hairstyle, and an overall presence that feels too polished for a veteran mercenary. The director immediately senses something is off. Walken doesn't look like a man who has spent years drifting between brutal conflicts. He looks like a star playing a mercenary. So the director pivots. He pushes for a drastic physical shift, leaner, sharper, more worn. Walken agrees, but he doesn't aim for cosmetic changes. He builds an intense routine that alters everything: the way he walks, the heaviness in his face, even the tension in his shoulders. Crew members say they watched him fade into another person over the course of the shoot. Not surface acting, but full embodiment. The transformation gives Walken an unsettling edge. His quiet moments feel heavier. His stare feels carved from exhaustion and memory. The emotional gravity of the entire film begins resting on his appearance alone. And that visual shift becomes one of the production's greatest victories. Fact number 8. The coup finale required an entire village built from scratch. Because shooting in actual villages is too unpredictable, the production constructs a full settlement: streets, huts, guard posts, even functioning lights. But there's a twist. The location sits on unstable ground. Overnight shifts cause entire structures to tilt. Production designers scramble to reinforce walls, while actors step around sinking pathways during rehearsals. Not a set, but a battleground between filmmaking and nature. The final battle feels real because the environment fights back. That tension leaks into the film and becomes part of its texture. Fact number 9. Multiple extras quit after the first battle rehearsal. The stunt rehearsals for the palace assault are brutally demanding. The choreography involves sprinting under heat, dropping to the ground repeatedly, and moving through billowing practical smoke. After one long session, several extras walk off set and don't return. Not bad behavior, just physical overload. The production replaces them with local performers more accustomed to the region's punishing climate. What audiences didn't know: the background soldiers you see in the film are a mix of professionals and last-minute recruits brought in because the original extras couldn't keep up. Fact number 10. Walken performs a stunt that terrifies the crew. There's a moment where Walken sprints through a corridor while explosions burst on both sides. The stunt is dangerous because the timing is razor-thin. Walken insists on doing it himself. The first take goes perfectly. The second take goes badly. A burst fires earlier than planned, and the shockwave hits Walken with a blast of dirt and debris. He isn't injured, but the crew freezes. Walken brushes it off with a simple, "Let's go again." Not bravado, commitment. Fact number 11. The film's weapons team worked around the clock. With hundreds of firearms appearing throughout the Dogs of War, the weapons department becomes the unsung backbone of the production. They aren't just handing out props, they're maintaining a small armory. Rifles need continual cleaning. Magazines must be checked, rechecked, and swapped. Blank ammunition residue builds up quickly, forcing constant breakdowns and resets. During the coup scenes, the workload becomes overwhelming. The action is dense, choreography is complex, and continuity requires flawless weapon performance. One armorer later jokes that he almost slept under the workbench because the turnaround time between setups becomes microscopic. Not preparation survival. Every malfunction threatens to halt production. Every jam risks throwing off timing. The weapons. Team works through nights, missing meals, fixing rifles under lantern light while explosions echo from nearby rehearsals. Their unseen labor ensures the on-screen firefights feel sharp, controlled, and believable. Without their precision, the film's gritty realism would collapse instantly. Instead, their tireless work builds a tactile authenticity that audiences don't consciously notice, but absolutely feel. Fact number 12. The director fights to keep the ending ambiguous. From early drafts, the director envisions an ending filled with moral uncertainty, a closing beat that lingers rather than resolves. But when the studio views rough cuts, they push back. Executives want clarity, a decisive victory, a triumphant finale, or at least a cleaner emotional summary. The director refuses. Meetings stretch for days. Notes pile up. Suggestions include rewriting final lines, adding explanatory narration, or inserting new shots to tie loose ends. The director argues that real conflicts end in silence, not celebration. The story, he insists, demands honesty, not resolution reflection. Crew members recall the tension surrounding these debates. Some feared the studio might force reshoots. Others worried the ambiguous ending would alienate audiences. But the director holds firm, believing the film's identity depends on this single choice. In the end, he wins. The final cut preserves the quiet, uneasy tone he originally envisioned. That stillness becomes one of the film's most memorable qualities, a challenge rather than a conclusion. The ambiguity shapes discussions for years, proving the director's instincts were right. Fact number 13. Real military advisors shape the film's accuracy. To prevent the film from falling into exaggerated action tropes, the production hires real military advisors, individuals with first-hand experience in small unit tactics and rapid deployment operations. Their job is to analyze every movement, formations, communication signals, weapon handling, even the emotional restraint soldiers develop under pressure. Their notes can be blunt. Don't overplay the heroism. One advisor warns, keep it sharp, keep it simple, not stylization precision. Actors undergo hands-on crash training, moving in tight stacks, clearing corners, and coordinating under shouted commands. Advisors correct everything from posture to breathing. Walken takes the feedback especially seriously, incorporating the minimal, efficient body language they teach him. Behind the scenes, the advisors help rewrite several action beats to reflect real tactics instead of theatrical choreography. They eliminate unnecessary flourishes, shorten movements, and tighten transitions. Their influence becomes the invisible backbone of the film's authenticity. Audiences may not know the technical accuracy behind each scene, but they feel it, the grounded realism born from advisors who treat the production like a mission rather than a movie. Fact number 14. The script changes constantly due to unpredictable weather. Filming in unpredictable climates forces the writing team into full crisis mode creativity. Rainstorms swallow entire sets. Fog rolls in and hides the horizon. The ground shifts from firm to swamp soft overnight. Every weather pattern becomes a threat to the day's shooting schedule. So, the writers adapt fast. Entire dialogue passages are rewritten on location. New scenes appear the same morning they're shot. Actors memorize lines while makeup is applied. Even blocking shifts to fit the terrain, with characters moving differently depending on mud levels or sudden wind bursts. Not last-minute chaos. Adaptive filmmaking. Some of the film's most natural moments come from these impromptu rewrites. Scenes originally meant for indoor settings get moved outside because the light is perfect. Tense exchanges become more intimate when rain forces actors under small shelters. The environment dictates emotion as much as the script. Crew members later admit the unpredictability becomes an unexpected gift. Instead of rigid planning, the film grows organically, shaped by the landscape itself. That spontaneity gives the Dogs of War an atmospheric realism that can't be storyboarded. It has to be lived. Fact number 15. Pressure to tone down. The brutality sparks a creative battle. When the studio watches the earliest assembly cut, concerns erupt almost immediately. The realism feels too raw. The battle scenes are intense. The emotional weight is heavy. Executives worry the tone may be too harsh for general audiences. They suggest trimming certain sequences, softening sound effects, and reducing close-ups during action moments. The director disagrees. The story, he believes, needs its unfiltered edge. Not sanitizing, preserving honesty. Tension builds during review sessions. Cuts are debated frame by frame. The director argues that watering down the brutality dilutes the message. Mercenary missions aren't clean, controlled, or heroic. They're messy, unpredictable, and morally heavy. Behind closed doors, editors try alternate versions to appease both sides, but the results feel hollow. Eventually, the director's vision wins enough support to keep the film's core intact. Though a few minor trims are made for pacing, the struggle becomes its own quiet chapter of the movie's creation, a battle fought not on screen, but in editing rooms, where the line between raw realism and studio preference blurs dangerously. Fact number 16. A key cast member suffers heat exhaustion mid-scene. During one of the film's outdoor sequences, the cast pushes through a long stretch of shooting under relentless heat. The humidity is intense. The sun is unforgiving, and the costumes trap more warmth than anyone expects. In the middle of a take, a supporting actor suddenly sways, drops to one knee, and collapses completely. The set falls silent. Crew members rush over while the assistant director calls an immediate halt. Medical staff treat the actor on site, confirming heat exhaustion. It's a frightening moment that forces everyone to confront the physical toll of filming in such harsh conditions. Not an inconvenience, a wake-up call. The production re-evaluates its entire schedule. Hydration stations multiply across the set. Shade tents pop up near every staging area. Breaks become mandatory, not optional. Actors and extras are closely monitored, especially during high-exertion scenes. The incident becomes a turning point. Cast and crew realize the environment is as much an adversary as the film's fictional conflict. That heightened awareness spreads throughout the shoot, sharpening discipline and strengthening the sense of teamwork needed to finish safely. The movie moves forward, but with a deeper respect for the terrain's unforgiving demands. Fact number 17. Walken's calm demeanor creates tension on set. Christopher Walken's intensity on screen begins long before the cameras roll. Between takes, he becomes unusually quiet, almost unnervingly so. While other cast members chat, stretch, or review lines, Walken sits alone, shoulders slightly curved, eyes focused, somewhere distant. Crew members describe him as present, but glass-like, as if he's slipping into the mental space of a man who's seen too many battles. Some find the stillness unsettling, not aloofness, focus. Walken doesn't break character outwardly, but he carries its emotional residue. This creates an unusual tone on set. Other actors begin lowering their voices naturally around him. Conversations quiet when he walks by. Even the crew starts treating scenes with greater gravitas, sensing that Walken views every moment as part of a larger emotional thread. His calm becomes a silent form of leadership, not the loud, commanding kind, something sharper and more internal. It radiates through rehearsals, shifting the atmosphere from casual filmmaking to something heavier, more grounded. The result is a performance that feels carved from silence and tension. Walken's off-camera demeanor casts a shadow over the production, and that shadow becomes part of the film's emotional architecture. Fact number 18. Some scenes are shot with almost no rehearsal. Because the filming schedule constantly battles weather delays, sudden location changes, and shrinking daylight, the director often abandons traditional rehearsal processes. Instead of multiple run-throughs, actors receive quick blocking instructions and are told to feel through the moment. Scenes unfold with only the barest structure movement, emotional tone, and rough beats, not polished preparation, raw reaction. This approach becomes a gamble. Some takes collapse entirely, with actors stumbling over terrain or improvising dialogue that doesn't land. But other times, something electric happens. Tension emerges naturally, reactions feel instinctive, and movements reflect real uncertainty rather than scripted precision. Crew members later admit these unpredictable takes often look more believable than rehearsed ones. The lack of polish creates an atmosphere of authenticity chaos, captured truthfully rather than staged carefully. Several of these minimally rehearsed scenes end up in the final cut. They carry a distinct energy, as if the characters themselves are navigating unfamiliar territory. That immediacy becomes one of the film's trademarks, lending The Dogs of War its rugged, documentary-like texture. The audience doesn't see the rushed process behind these moments. They only feel the rawness that results from it. Fact number 19. The sound team battles extreme conditions. Recording clean audio in the film's jungle locations becomes a technical nightmare. Humidity fogs lenses, but it also eats into sound equipment. Microphones crackle unexpectedly. Cables absorb moisture overnight. Recorder units jam mid-take. The sound team quickly learns that the environment is their greatest enemy, not the script's complexity. To survive, they improvise. Equipment gets wrapped in layers of plastic, towels, and makeshift insulation. Boom operators stand beneath umbrellas held by other crew members, just to keep condensation off the gear. In some scenes, wind gusts roar so loudly that the microphones barely pick up dialogue, not an inconvenience and endurance test. By the time filming ends, entire sections of dialogue prove unusable. The team brings actors into a studio months later to re-record lines while watching footage, matching tone, breath, and emotional weight. This behind-the-scenes process becomes critical without it. Whole scenes would be lost to static and environmental noise. The resulting soundscape blends location chaos with studio clarity. Audiences hear polished dialogue layered over the wild environment, creating a seamless illusion built from some of the toughest recording conditions the crew ever faced. Fact number 20. The film quietly shapes future mercenary movies. The Dogs of War doesn't explode at the box office, but its influence spreads quietly through the filmmaking world. Directors and writers study its grounded tone, its refusal to glamorize mercenary life, its use of gritty, practical effects, its morally ambiguous storytelling. By the mid-80s, filmmakers planning similar projects frequently reference it during pitch sessions and pre-production meetings. Not mainstream glory foundational impact. The film's visual language becomes a template, handheld shots during chaos, muted color palettes, and combat scenes that feel stripped of theatrical flourish. Later movies borrow its structure, small teams, covert missions, internal conflict rather than grand heroism. Even the industry's approach to authenticity shifts. Military advisors, once optional, become standard for productions seeking similar realism. Walken's portrayal also influences how actors approach hardened, world-weary characters, subtle emotions, minimal dialogue, and a focus on physical storytelling. Though casual viewers may not trace the lineage, filmmakers recognize The Dogs of War as a turning point. Its fingerprints appear in dozens of later films, shaping a subgenre that values tension, precision, and moral complexity. Its legacy isn't loud, it's steady, embedded in the craft itself. The Dogs of War looks like a straightforward mercenary thriller, but behind the camera, it becomes something else entirely: a battle against terrain, time, weather, politics, and the limits of filmmaking itself. The grit audiences feel isn't crafted, it's lived. Every frame carries the weight of a production that refused to break. If you learned something new, drop a comment and hit that subscribe button for more deep dive film investigations. And remember, sometimes the wildest stories aren't on screen. They're behind it.